Hello and welcome to a rather special Sunday repeated on Wednesday program, and this is
the mojo hand, the winning boy's magic.
Marge, this ticket doesn't just give me a seat. It also gives me the right, no, the duty to make a complete ass of myself.
But as for me, I'm off to battle aliens on a faraway planet.
Hello, operator, give me the number for 911.
Who sent you here? Can't talk, little man? Bet can't play none either.
I could pull a better cartoon out of my ear. Hey, whoa! Wasn't that great, kid?
Oh, bitch.
Kill my boss! Do I dare live out the American dream?
Overload. Pleasure overload.
Uh-oh. 2 independent thought alarms in one day.
Good morning, Wood Ticks and Patriots. Welcome to the Just Jim Show. Coming back at you after about 6 years. 5-6 years of not being around. Hey, we got stuff to talk about. And the only reason I came back on the air was because things haven't really changed. We were out here, maybe 10 years ago, 2010, 2011. We're on for about 5-6 years. And we talked about everything. We call it like it is on the show. And if you don't like it, hey, don't listen. Got nothing off of me. Don't listen if you don't want to. But we call wood ticks, and you all know what they are. And if you don't, I will tell you what a wood tick is, because they're all over the place right now. Patriots, I don't have to tell you. You know who you are and what you do. And with that, we got a lot to talk about. Again, I'm tickled pink to be back on the air. It's been a while, 6 years-ish, kabibble. But it seems like I talk to a lot of people, and it seems like things just never, ever change. And it's gotten worse. We're still upside down. I don't get why we're still upside down, because why the heck people haven't woken up? Other than when they wake, they call themselves woke. And what the heck is that? Y'all know what a woke person is. Anyway, recently, let's get rid of that music. That was just the other day here. I got an article from, I forget where it was, AP, UPI, whatever it was. We get our news from. Military-grade spyware found on a journalist activist cell phone. So you think you're alone. I'm not so sure about that. People continue to have connectivity, which leads, I'm going to read this quick, which leads to people wanting to develop artificial intelligence. And there's, at some point, artificial intelligence isn't that bad. But when it falls into a conglomerate or the wrong hands or devious plans, hands with plans. Yeah. Maybe that should be a segment. Hands with plans. You can talk about people who continue to develop their own thing. The Post reported on Sunday that spyware licensed from Israel, an NSO group to governments for tracking terrorists and criminals, was used in attempts to hack 37 phones belonging to journalists. Now, I'm not necessarily a journalist. Yes, I am. Have been for a long time. I've also been a television producer for 40-some years. Human rights activists, business executives, and 2 women who were close to murdered Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Some of the hacking attempts were successful. Some were not. Now, that leads us to another whole conversation about antivirus, anti-tracking, private networks that people get on and do their thing with. But the phones were included on a list of more than 50,000 numbers, many of which were based in countries that are known to surveil their citizens and are recognized clients of NSO groups, according to the investigation. It's not known how many of the phone numbers on the list were ultimately targeted or surveilled. Amnesty International and Forbidden Stories, a Paris-based journalism nonprofit organization, both had access to the list and shared it with the news outlets, which they had contacts with. which conducted additional research and analysis as part of an investigation. Now, I got to know, I guarantee you, I got some friends in the cell phone business, and I have to say, I don't know if they know, does anybody really know the people that they work for, what goes on at corporate USA, who they're involved with, what are their connections? Excuse me, breakfast is talking back, which it does occasionally here in the bunker, which I got to tell you guys, I'm broadcasting live from Lake Wish I Be Gone, deep in the bunker on the shores, the not so beautiful shores of Lake Wish I Be Gone. If you don't know where that is, take a look around. We are east of Lake Wobegon, where everything is perfect. There is nothing wrong. Everybody's got rainbows and cupcakes. At Lake Wish I Be Gone, there's some problems. Kids fail. Teachers are teaching CRT. We got so much to talk about. You can't stay up late at night and write this crap. Whoop. There's a quarter. This is not a kid-friendly show. We sometimes swear like a drunken sailor. Not necessarily all the time, but when we do, we hit the button and we give 25 cents. See? Here's a quarter going into the kitty right there. And we give it away to a nonprofit organization at the end of the season. Just to let you know. We don't have a heart when we talk, but we have a heart when we're done with it. And with that, the investigation dubbed the Pegasus Project, however, did analyze the phones conducted by the Amnesty security search, and many of them have tight correlation between stamps associated with a number. Hang on, let me get the number here. The lab scrutinized with the number that was listening to your phone conversations. The lab scrutinized 67 phones, which were attacked and thought to have been occurred, and 23 of which were found to be successfully infected, which means they're doing more than just looking at your phone and you're listening to your conversations. They're attaching things to your devices. 14 which showed evidence of attempted infiltration. Now, the remaining 30 tests were inconclusive in several instances because the phones were replaced. Oh, rotating stock. Just like your vegetable shelf. Got to rotate the stock. So keep that in mind when you're paying your bill to your big corporate brother, your cell phones. We don't have advertisers at the moment, but I'll tell you, we may take a look at Patriot Mobile. We hear that they're a Christian organization. I went and looked at some of their rates the other day. They're not necessarily the most cost-effective, but given their mission statement and what they do, we'll take a look at them. We'll call them up and see what if they're interested in joining the Just Jim Show. On to the next thing here. In 2015, and y'all know that any of you patriots, wood ticks, you can listen up or shut up, doesn't matter, turn it off, doesn't matter. We know the ultimate goal is to take guns away from patriots. And I wonder why. Why would you want to take guns away from a patriot? I mean, I guess I understand. You'll find me laughing at myself quite a bit and some of the things I say and think. Because a lot of things I think I can't say, I'll guarantee you I can't say, and stay on the air. Long story short, if in fact, I don't know why I'm not live on YouTube. We're having a problem here. Interesting. I'm waiting for, there we are. Okay. If in fact, mute that. There we are. I guess I am. Long story short, in 2015, a man in Cranston lost his guns, and it has taken him until just recently. The Supreme Court finally ruled on the case in 2021, just August 20th. No, that's when he lost his guns. My bad. I got to read. So I'm going to ask you a question. When you pull it out, and we're talking guns, not something else. Is is it the appropriate time, and what is going to happen afterwards? That's constantly on the minds of people who teach anything from hunter safety to concealed carry classes. Once you pull that gun out or get into a situation like this gentleman did, got into an argument with his wife, and there was a domestic call to the police department, and accusations, unfounded as it turns out, were made, and guns disappeared. 6 years. Now, that's a constitutional right. I'm a constitutional carry kind of guy. It's pretty explicit what the Constitution says. You can interpret it 100,000 different ways. But there's really, if you look at the English language, there's only one way to interpret the Constitution. And it says the right shall not be infringed upon. I don't know how else to say it, but like everything else, it seems to be up for grabs and discussion. And then you get 20 people in a room, and you know how that goes. You put 20 people around a table, and you start a conversation with one of them and want it to travel all the way around the table. You'll have an entirely new story by the time it makes it back to the first person that started it. It won't have a dang thing to do with how it started at the table. And that's exactly what went on here. The arguments came down that, quote unquote, none of this has been anti-police, but anti their reactions that day. And I get that it's a judgment call when an LEO goes to a call from anybody, from a first responder, which I used to be. If you get a call, you approach the situation, at least I did, very guarded. You want to be a bobblehead. Take a look all the way around, see what's going on. And you have to assess the situation and then act how you feel accordingly. So it wasn't an anti-police action, but it was a circumstance. And even the guy who lost his guns, he quotes, he says, they are my heroes. And I agree. It's a tough call, especially domestic calls. Holy kajibers. And while we're talking about domestic calls, that can happen to anybody. Just things get escalated. Maybe you didn't like the way your hamburger was done or the kind of pickles that were put on your burger. I don't know. Stuff happens. And it seems like the reactions are almost always overreactions. Talk about a reaction. I got to stop and say, congrats to the Milwaukee Bucks. I personally have stopped following almost all professional sports because when you decide that you want to do something political instead of your assigned paid for job function, you can pretty much kiss my, I will not watch you. I don't follow you. You can just go ahead and go. Leave. Goodbye. I don't have time for you because there's way too many other things that you should and could be doing with your time and money, one of which is play the sport you're being paid to play. The political crap ends when you walk into a voting booth. One man, one vote. The rest of it doesn't matter. The celebrities and all of that crap. That's not a swear word, but I'll half ding the bell. It doesn't matter. You get one vote. That's it. Of course, unless you're dead and then you get more votes. That's another whole story, another whole show. And trust me, I'm going to go there eventually. You betcha. But anyways, back to this hand. But kudos to the Bucks. But, and a few players on the team, I have to admit that they stand out. Giannis, well-deserved. I remember a couple of years ago when they got edged out of their run for the title. And then COVID last year. Oh, COVID, another whole subject. There's so much to talk about. Anyway, I remember him saying, I'm staying with Milwaukee and I want to play for the Bucks. They've drafted him and he was obligatory to a certain degree, but he saw the core group of people that were very good at what they do, and play basketball. And he said, let's stay with the Milwaukee Bucks and bring a title to Milwaukee. And what did he do? He stayed with the Bucks, wasn't interested in trade agreements or moving to some team that was a flash in the pan today, tomorrow, maybe not, because somebody else will get traded, get more money. He said, I'm going to stay and play. Remember Paul Molitor, Jimmy Gantner from the Brewers from way back when? Those boys I want to play for the Milwaukee Brewers, and rightfully so. Anyway, long story short, kudos to him. Well-deserved effort, huge, 50 points. He wanted it, and he brought it home. So much for the Bucks and professional sports. I didn't watch the game. I heard it this morning when I got up, which led to another story of Water Street in Milwaukee. And I thought to myself, I even asked the question, well, did they burn Milwaukee down? Did the fans decide that this was something so exciting they had to burn the city down? Apparently there were shots fired down Milwaukee, somewhere down there. And I'm surprised Water Street, they had apparently 1,500 National Guardsmen, women were called to hang around the Fiserv Forum, prevent or just have their presence there. I don't know what they would have done. Apparently somebody got shot, or there were shots fired, and whether or not anybody's in custody is another story. But anyway, that just seems to be apropos for where the heck we are today. And I thought, God, if this happened in Phoenix, would they have burned Phoenix down? I mean, if they would have won down there, Phoenix Suns would have won down there. Would they have actually burned down? Because we won a title. Oh, man, I tell you. But anyways, kudos to the Bucks. Let's get back to the story. What would you do if you lost your guns for 6 years over a discussion that got maybe out of hand? Officer, back in 2015, officers questioned Caniglia and sent him to Kent Hospital for an evaluation. A step Caniglia said that he agreed to only after police assured him they would not take his guns. Now that's another story, isn't it? Again, assessing an immediate situation, trying to get through it, get him off to the hospitals. Officers nonetheless seized his 2 guns and ammunition. Caniglia was released from the hospital the same day. Backed by the Rhode Island affiliate of the American Civil Liberties Union, he sued the police after they refused to return his guns without a court order. Now, I guess I got to say that the due process there is get him out of the immediate situation, send him to the hospital, have an evaluation, and if it comes back as there's no problem, if I'm a police chief, I'm going to say, well, let's get him his guns back. He's been, it's kind of like a waiting period for buying a gun. If there's a waiting period, you get to cool down between the time you order it and the time you get it. So why would this be any different? That's my opinion. Anyway, the guns were returned 3.5 months later, only after he filed a lawsuit. I immediately felt like it was a miscarriage of justice. If they can come and do this with these firearms, when can they take away my car because I ran a stop sign? Rationale, why not? If they can come and do it seemed arbitrary. Caniglia, 70 years old, said. On Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court, last Monday, and I forget what the date was here. I don't have it in front of me. Anyway, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously that Cranston had violated Caniglia's Fourth Amendment rights by entering his home and seizing the guns and having him taken to the hospital without a warrant, though he agreed to go. I mean, at some point, yes, you agree to go, kind of a warrant may not be warranted. But then it falls under HIPAA law. Does his medical condition or lack thereof violate his civil rights of privacy? None of this has been an anti-police thought, but anti their reactions to that day. It was a little bit out of hand, Caniglia said. He isn't seeking damages, he says, but only to be compensated for his legal expenses, which I'm wondering what they might be. Officers at the scene questioned Caniglia. He says he told them he would never commit suicide and stepped away during the conversation to take his blood pressure medication. Still, the officers had him taken to the hospital. So apparently, maybe he didn't agree to do it. He said that they really didn't know why I was there, he said of the staff. The couple remained married through this, and he reports talking to his wife for a few weeks after the incident. Why they had come into my house and taken everything didn't make any sense. He's also an NRA member. Oh, wait a minute. What is that? Yeah, National Rifle Association. Another show, another story. U.S. Court Chief Judge John McConnell in 29 ruled in favor of the Cranston police. Now, I got to say that this is constant. If you hear a story about somebody or something happening, these courts, the judges in these courts are making decisions that are cockaruca. Where's my pig? Here it is. Cockaruca. He's my buddy, my show buddy. Where an average person could interpret the law and its application traditionally better than 90% of the judges that are out there. And I understand the quick reply that, our court dockets are so full of crap that we just have to get on through. Well, that's if you ever get a case in front of you, because lawyers today are known to just postpone, and 2 years later, what's the point? Why are we here? Just let them go. Give them 30 days probation and a $50 court cost fee and charge and let them go. Walk the streets again. And then 3 days later, he goes to shoot somebody. Anyway, another local story up here in the North Woods of Wisconsin, around Lake Wish I Be Gone. Anyways, officers must sometimes make on-the-spot judgments in harrowing and swiftly evolving circumstances. But was it really? I don't know. Again, I wasn't there, and I'm sure body cams, they might not have been there in 2015. Such considerations argue persuasively in favor of affording the police some reasonable leeway in the performance of their duty caretaking responsibilities. Senior Circuit Judge Sala wrote for the appeals court. But I don't know. Boy, I do agree with that. But, I guess if we're not there, we're not there. And you leave it up to the courts. But 6 years, have your rights violated and held in abeyance for 6 years. I'm just not buying it, folks. Just not buying it. I know you wood ticks love it, but I don't. Supreme Court heard virtual arguments in March that contemplated just when police may enter when they search the trunk of a car without a warrant. Courts nationwide have since been split on whether those protections should be extended into homes. And if you know anything about law, self-protection, this, that, and the other thing, the Castle document, the Castle law, is rather specific in what is and is not allowed in your home. And that may have been part of the ruling that this eventually fell down on. Brett Kavanaugh cautioned that courts, police officers, and police departments must take care in situations in which a person could be at risk to be sure a warrantless entry is reasonable under the circumstances. That's Judge Kavanaugh, most recent appointee by, the guy that they're responsible for everything. Mr. Trump, was one of his appointees. Cases involved armed, suicidal people and elderly people. An elderly person who fails to attend church and can't reach out. Now, there's a reason to go and enter somebody's house. Although I shouldn't say that. You got a wellness check. It's all good there. Illustrates the kind of warrantless entries that are perfectly constitutional under the exigent circumstances document. And in my view, Kavanaugh wrote, the takeaway is that the home is entitled to greater constitutional protections than an automobile unless there are existing exceptions. So I'm glad that it came around, and I'm glad that certain entities were around to pursue this to the end that it got. It's the smaller cases where somebody doesn't have the fortitude to stand up and go find these people, organizations, to help defend their rights. That is one of the reasons I see that we continue to fall down this slippery slope of woke, for lack of a better term. It's getting to be a little disheartening. There, you want to take a little better look at the studio? There you are. I guess I just have a problem with the amount of people, average people, middle of the road people, who just refuse to open their mouth. And I know it's not always worth the quote unquote, I don't know, the argument or the energy, because it seems to be everywhere we go that this kind of stuff just keeps happening. You can be sitting in a restaurant, overhear a conversation. At least my ears do. I'm always listening. And when I hear conversations, I want to get up and go, what are you talking about, people? But anyways, with this pandemic, let's take where am I going to go here? Here, I gotta tell you, we don't have any advertisers at the moment, but I want you to do me a favor. I want you to like our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and subscribe, because that is the only way we're moving down the road. And I'm intending to be here for a while, just as an FYI. And if you want to pick up some stuff, go pick up our JJ merchandise, the Just Jim Show merchandise. We got a whole pile of it. Please support us if you like us. If not, hey, that's all right. Somebody else will. And with that, there you go. With the pandemic, our educational system kind of got brought to the forefront of many a discussion, didn't they? I subscribe to a small group on Facebook. It's called No Left Turn in Education. Interesting posts most of the time. And when you take a look at some of the things that are going on nationally, you surely need to take a look at what's going on locally. Now, your school districts, every one of them are supposed to be a little bit different, but between this critical race theory and I don't know what to say. Teachers apparently have been under the thumbs of their unions for so long. And I got to thank Scott Walker. Oh, boy, here we go. I get all the calls and emails, nasty emails now, for Act 10, back when Wisconsin passed Act 10, among other things. When the pandemic hit and everybody went home screaming the sky is falling, I think things got so upside down, or more upside, if you could say more upside down, I don't know. And now teachers don't want to go back to school and teach. There are school districts all over the state, and trust me, I am going to be talking about some school districts and the behavior that they're exhibiting. Is if you have any common sense, you're going to scratch your head and other body parts and say, what the hell is going on? I'll give you another quarter. And then you're going to ask yourself, at least you should ask yourself, is this going on in my school district? And if it is, how do I get it out of there? Or do I want to get it out of there? I mean, there's two sides of every story. Somebody's going to say, you got to teach, I don't know where in God's green earth, critical race theory as a subject belongs in any school system. Not happening in my school district, as far as I know. And if I find out it is, we're going to have some discussions. But along with, let me get back to where I was going here. It's an article I read the other day, and it's very appropriate, and it's something that a lot of people are not even aware of, or probably don't even want to be bothered with it. But here's the question. Are broadband stats that we're seeing somehow overinflated? What did the pandemic hide? There's an article by Doug Dawson, president of the CCG consulting firm. And it's one of the trade magazines I get, or online versions thereof. Cable companies, telcos, have been the beneficiary of a huge, I mean, we're talking huge amounts of federal and state tax dollars. Now, in the scheme of homeschooling, is that a bad thing? But the curriculum that comes along that's attached to those tax dollars is probably more in question than some of the other things. But the growth within the cable companies and telco companies has been astronomical. If you were lucky enough to have your 401 money sitting in a telco or subsidiary hardware corporation, you're probably doing pretty well on your retirement account. Anyway, but the growth of broadband customers has looked spectacular over the past years during the pandemic. It's easy to chalk up higher broadband customers nationwide to the need for households to be connected during the pandemic. And for those of you, and I can speak to Wisconsin, in southeastern Wisconsin, the lack of connectivity was fairly high at home, even though it was available, but it was probably cost ineffective for many families to have cable or telco connectivity in their homes. And the school systems, even up here, I can tell you some stories in rural America, excuse me, not COVID, where you in rural, let's start here. Rural America, about 8 years ago, had a 42% non-connective broadband ratio. And in the school systems up here, they required you to have some form of connectivity at home for classes and curriculum. The best some of these or cities and townships had was a very weak dial-up system. Now, we've come a long way since dial-up, but back in, I don't know, maybe 12, 15 years ago, one of my companies streamed government meetings free of charge. We ended up having to carry a 16 kilobit stream to accommodate people that had 2,400, 3,200 baud dial-up connections with their telco companies. Because if in fact all we sent out was a 112 kilobit stream, which is fine for a cable company, and you can do 500,000 things on your computer and still listen to the stream. But if you had a dial-up and you wanted to surf or do email and listen to the stream, you were getting buffered, you were getting knocked offline, the whole 9 yards. So you couldn't, our customers couldn't listen to our services. So we took on a very low streaming computer system to allow those people to listen to their stuff. Now, we've come a long way, and with the pandemic, the rural communities are still lacking cable connectivity, but they do have some DSL connectivity. And that's part of what we're talking about here. First, look at the broadband performance of the two largest ISPs in the country, Comcast and Charter. ended 2020 with 55.3 million broadband customers, which is around 52% of all the broadband customers in the country. So they got a market share. Oh, it almost reminds me of the telephone companies of long ago. In 2020, Comcast added nearly 2 million new broadband customers. Charter added over 2.2 million customers. Combined, the companies grew broadband customers by 7.6% for the year. That is an amazing growth rate when you consider that all other ISPs with more than 400,000 broadband customers collectively grew at a rate of less than 1% per year. So there's a dominating thing going on there. That kind of numerical anomaly always makes me curious, which is good to be. Ask questions. I'll tell you no lies. Don't ask no questions. I'll tell you no lies. What would make these two companies do so well compared to the rest of the industry during the pandemic year? Well, if the infrastructure is built, guess what? They just toss a new line in and away you go. Part of the difference can be explained by the continued drop in DSL customers. And DSL, while DSL is, a little techie thing here, DSL is a more secure connection than a cable company, because when a telephone company gives you a DSL connection, you have a piece of copper, maybe fiber, but most often the time it's copper. It goes from this point to that point, and the bandwidth between these 2 points stays the same because it's your connection. Nobody else shares your connection. With cable, you have a box here, and you have XYZ number of people coming off that box. And if everybody's using their cable at the same time, your bandwidth goes down. And at times, you'll have less connectivity speed with cable than you will with a DSL connection. Anyways, a little techie thing there. The telcos have been bleeding urban DSL customers for many years, which is true. Did that transition accelerate during the pandemic? For all of 2020, AT&T lost a net of 5,000 broadband customers, but AT&T said it gained 1 million fiber customers. Speed, the need for speed. Verizon gained 173,000 broadband customers. CenturyLink lost 134,000, and Frontier lost 400,000. Frontier does have cable, fiber. Most of their stuff is telco, DSL. I had DSL here. God, was it? I can't remember. I don't remember when we got rid of it, but it was because I had 2 DSL connections, and I still didn't have enough bandwidth to do what I wanted to do. Anyway, all these companies except Frontier announced how well they were doing in getting customers on fiber, so perhaps a couple of million of the new cable customers come from continued flight of DSL. That doesn't seem to explain away all the differences, because we didn't see a huge migration from DSL in markets served by bigger cable companies like Cox and Altus. So the question being, the end result of this whole article is to get broadband into homes with students during the pandemic. Both giant cable companies had numerous press releases about how they were helping to keep students connected during the pandemic. In Milwaukee, were they down there, Charter or Spectrum, whatever it was, I think they were offering or got subsidized XYZ dollars per connectivity point by the government to bring broadband into almost all of the homes within Milwaukee. The southeastern Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Kenosha, Racine, blah, blah. Northern, maybe, well, they would be in northern Illinois, too, because I think that's Sprint down there. But, and they got subsidized to bring it in. It's because kids had to do this Zoom thing, very insecure. But they had to do this Zoom thing and all this cockamaroo that teachers were trying to shove at students that they didn't. There was no attendance records. Another story. Now that schools are going to go back, in theory, go back to live face-to-face educational points, what will happen to the broadband? Because the subsidies will disappear. I'll guarantee you. Well, I never guarantee anything, right, Jim? in theory, the the subsidies should disappear to the cable companies and telcos because students are now back in school. But I don't know if they're gonna probably wave the flag of, oh, woe is me, and try to bilk some more money from the government. My money, your money. And they'll play wood tick and suck you dry. Oh, sorry, all you telco listeners and you cell company listeners. That's not meant to be a personal thing. But again, remember who you're working for. With growth like these the big two companies had, you got to know any give back is just not going to go down well in the boardroom. However, just as the pandemic is starting to slow down, we have a new government program that will boost low-income broadband connections. Congress handed the FCC $3.2 billion for the Emergency Broadband Benefit program. This program will pay up to $50 per month towards broadband bill for qualifying households. Now, you may or may not, you got a bill for what? Because you're going to get broadband, you're going to get cable TV, you're going to have this, that, and the other thing. So your bill's going to be $150 a month. So you get $50 off and you're still paying $100 a month. Maybe that's a good deal, maybe it's not. My opinion is it's my tax dollars. Nobody's subsidizing me here. Anyway, I have to think that Comcast and Charter with 52% of the broadband market are going to grab a lot of this funding. And for now, this program has a finite end with when the money runs out. But will it run out? It depends who's sitting in office. You got to know that. Is it going to have a wood tick sitting in office? Or are you going to have a business person or a patriot in office and saying, what are we doing giving away this money? For now, this program, but until it does, the broadband statistics from the biggest ISPs are likely to remain inflated due to this plan. That probably means we wait until next year to see if some percentage of the 2020 customer base increases. If the customer increase was a bubble or was it permanent? Well, as long as it's subsidized, it's probably going to be semi-permanent. You'll retain probably 30-40% of the increase in your revenues. And say, well, why not? I'm getting subsidized. If it was a bubble, we'll no doubt see gloom and doom headlines about the broadband industry if subscriber numbers drop, when instead we'd just be seeing the last remnants of the pandemic pass through the industry. And you gotta think about that. As an average consumer, did your cable bill go up? And if it did, what was the guise under which it was raised? I remember looking at my bill one time. There were so many surcharges and little add-ons. It was hard to make out, what the hell is this for? There was, 3 or 4. There was a state 911. There was a city 911. There was a federal 911. There was a I'm not connected to anything funding, excuse me, not COVID. All of these things were just added onto the bill, and it was like $60. And it's like, what the hell am I paying for this for? The people that are sitting on their butts don't want to go to work and sit at home and watch TV? Whoa! Yep, that's the way that goes. Anyway, I know somebody's laughing their kajibers off after that one. I got to say, I'm going to take a break here, a couple minutes. It's been about a half an hour. I want to sit back and I want to play something for you. Listen to it, take it to heart, and understand that it ain't going away.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher, Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states, 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
And there you have that. Yep. Something to be thought about. We play that fairly often on our show. Take it to heart. Yep. I'll give you a quick quote here from the Tea Party Patriots. Excuse me for... that's not COVID. I got a bad little thingy down there in my throat. Government always finds a need for whatever it gets. Who said that? Ronald Reagan. Mm-hmm. You betcha. Anyway, let's go back to the boys and girls position. A number of years ago, when was this? Let me see if that was in 2014. They were convicted. This is a little story about a couple of little kids that Red Skelton was talking about. And, that was in 2014. So, yeah, it was in 2014. Yeah. If you remember, and this follows up on this little story follows very closely to the broadband story I just talked about, having to do with accessibility in school. Now, this was while we were in school. 2014, there was no pandemic. This was time for kids in school to use the broadband that we taxpayers put into school systems, that was being used and abused by children in the schools and teachers in the schools. Oh, here we go. We got a bunch of more emails coming in, which, hey, feel free to send them in. I don't have a slate for that yet, but I'll have it for you. news@thejustjimshow.com. You got something to say, send it in. news@thejustjimshow.com. Like it, don't like it, whatever. Anyway, back in 2014, life was fine. It was full of rainbows and cupcakes. Everybody was having a good old time. And then some guy shows up by the name of Slender Man. Oh! Yep. He's out there luring children, impressionable minds that have no adult knowledgeable, let's just classify that, knowledgeable adult supervision, which is rampant in your school districts across the country. You have teachers putting curriculum out there. Oh, we need this, we need that, we need this. So IT departments put the crap in, and it... I should have shut that thing off. Well, whatever. Anyway, the unfeathered access to taxpayer-funded internet connectivity. Teacher Susie's planning her child's birthday party, sending emails out on our dime, your dime. It's just it's connectivity. It's just an email. Don't worry about it. Nobody checks it. Going to plan a stag party for a fellow gym teacher. Hey, I will take you out by a couple of beers. That's on my dime, on my school system that I paid for, you paid for, and it's personal business. Don't get me started on personal business and how it's abused across the country, from politicians to school teachers to parents, average, everyday Joe Blows doing whatever on company computers and broadband. Anyway, so up comes Slender Man. And maybe you remember this, maybe you don't. People who aren't in this part of the country, maybe you don't remember this. But two young girls lured a person into the woods. Let me just read it for you here. Anissa Weir was granted a conditional release by the Waukesha County Circuit Judge, where a judge read testimony saying she didn't exhibit psychotic behavior. Now, this is 6 years later, 2014. Yeah, 7 years later. This young lady now doesn't exhibit psychotic behavior. Now, remember this is a judge that's been elected by you, a voter, to sit in judgment. You're supposed to use good judgment. And they'll say, oh, I got all these professional people doing reports, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so she was convicted in 2014 to serve, blah, 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 blah. What does she get? 25 years in a mental institution after she pled guilty to being party to attempted second-degree intentional homicide. Got that? You listen to that one? You hear that one? Judge Michael O'Bourne agreed to Anissa Weir's March petition for release, which argued that the now 19-year-old woman was no longer a threat to herself or society. But I'm going to tell you that back then, her mental stability lured her by a fictitious make-believe entity on the internet that she gained access to at school. Your tax dollars paid for this. And I can tell you, as I vary from this story, that back then, myself and a number of other people were in front of school boards, writing constant letters, emails to IT and curriculum departments, questioning what the hell they were doing, allowing children, this unfeathered access to internet. Whoa, there was and still isn't a rationale being provided by a teacher to an IT department as to why I need to have, or he or she needs to have access to something on the internet to teach our children anything that's within a normal day-to-day life. You wonder, kids can't write cursive. Half the time they speak in slang. And this is acceptable behavior by our teachers in the classrooms. Oh, it's a whole new world. I can hear it now. Oh, the kids, they just get away with this, and I ain't got time to be their nanny, disciplinary nanny. Well, guess what? Anyway, Bourne noted that the hospital staff. Now, this could be a nurse, could be an aide. Hospital staff said Weir didn't exhibit psychotic behaviors and ordered state officials to produce her release plan within 60 days. Her next hearing is September 10th. That's this year. Couple of months. Weir is to remain in the Winnebago Mental Health Institute until then. In 2017, Weir was sentenced to 25 years in a mental institution after she pleaded guilty to being attempted party to a second-degree intentional homicide. In 2014, Weir and her friend Morgan Geyser lured their friend Peyton Leutner into the woods of their Milwaukee suburb. At the time, all three girls were 12 years old. I told you, children. This whole thing just infuriates me and makes me extremely sad that this is what the end result is of providing anything and everything to our kids without the rationale of why we're doing it. Let's just throw good money after bad. This is what happens. As Weir egged her on, Geyser stabbed Leutner multiple times. Leutner barely survived and was rescued by a passerby. Weir and Geyser said they tried to kill the girl to curry favor with a fictional horror character called Slender Man. A fictional horror character. Somebody sat and made this character up, and these kids got access to it. Geyser is serving a maximum of 40 years in the mental hospital. Mura McMahon, Weir's attorney, did not immediately respond to an NBC News request for comment. Hell, I wouldn't comment either. Are you nuts? 12 years old, and they lure somebody into it to be so disoriented in any social grace that you're luring another child, playmates. 12 years old, you're supposed to be out playing in a playground, not luring somebody into a wood somewhere and start stabbing them. you don't have the mental fortitude to figure out there's no reward for this activity besides some fictional character you've run into on the internet that our tax dollars paid for. What the hell is going on? This is going on today, September 10th, another hearing. And this is a judge that you elected. And a school system that allowed it to happen, and including directly after this event happened. I believe it was in Waukesha or New Berlin, Wisconsin. The teachers were all in an uproar. Oh, we're going to do this. They didn't do a damn thing. I'll give you 2 quarters for that one. The curriculum is still wide open. You need to look in your school systems and find out what can actually be accessed through their broadband that we paid for as taxpayers. What exactly is it that your children are able to access? Is there another Slender Man, or is it Slender Boy now this time? Another 12-year-old playmate shooting people on the playground? Well, you look at me like I'm crazy. Hell, last night there was shooting after the Bucks won the title in Milwaukee. There's Water Street. Idiots taking over streets in downtown Milwaukee. And that's, where the hell is Milwaukee? No place. It's a nothing. It's a wannabe city. It's a town, overgrown town. It's a national basketball championship. I'll tell you, if you don't get a little interested in the future of your local neighborhoods and your school systems, this is going to only escalate beyond repair. I walk around after I read these things and get our news releases. I constantly say, this is not going to end well. And I'll say it to you right here, right now. This is not going to end well. Because people, they're too worried about the flavor of their ice cream or the gender of their dog. I don't have a clue. Or you identify as a dog today. Well, so what's the point? You are what you are. You don't have to identify. It's called dress up. It used to be called dress up day. Now it's dress up life. I like that button. Oh, God. Oh.
Uh-oh. 2 independent thought alarms in one day.
Yeah.
The president has a big stick. I promise you.
Yeah. Promises. There you go. Sometimes I wonder, we can't punch our way out of a paper bag. You can blow it up, but you can't pop it. Oh, Lordy. And oh, God. I mean, it's funny because, it is funny, but it isn't. You have to laugh at the crap that's going on. But anyway, that judge, as far as I'm concerned, you could not present a series of testimony that would ever sway me to let that person out of jail. Well, it ain't jail, mental institution. Not happening. I'm going to tell you, not happening. Now, in the scheme of our judicial system, which that last story was all about, we got another one. Here it is. This is up in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. Former Tilden resident sentenced to 8 months in jail and must register as a sex offender. Headline sounds good. Yeah. I mean, it sounds bad. The activity's bad, but, 8 months. Well, we'll find out, given the fact there's a sex offender floating around. May 18th, Chippewa Falls. Former Tilden resident who now lives in St. James, Minnesota, will serve 8 months in jail after he was convicted Tuesday of sexually assaulting not 1, 2 girls. And he pleaded no contest in Chippewa Falls County Court to two counts of third-degree sexual assault and 2 counts of fourth-degree sexual assault. My bad. I should have looked up third and fourth degree sexual assaults. Now, the only reason, not the only reason, but one of the reasons I looked at this, or this caught my eye, is because I know the judge, Judge Steve Gibbs. And he ain't going to like what I'm about to say. Judge Steve Gibbs ordered the jail sentence and placed Williams on probation for 3 years. Gibbs ordered the jail term on the fourth-degree sexual assault convictions and gave Williams a deferred agreement on the third-degree sexual assault convictions. Williams has 60 days to report to jail and can serve the sentence in a Minnesota jail if there's no additional cost to Chippewa County. Williams also must register as a sex offender for 15 years and must pay $1,772 in court costs and fines. Well, Steve got his money for the county, I guess. According to the criminal complaint, 2 girls told authorities that Williams sexually assaulted them at his home on Highway Q in the town of Tilden. The older girl said she was assaulted in 2010 when she was 8 years old. The younger girl said she was assaulted in the summer of 2012 when she was 5. You want to get my dander up? Trust me, hair in the back of my neck is standing up. The younger girl said, both girls said Williams touched them sexually under their clothing. The older girl said she was forced to touch him in a sexual manner. As terms of his probation, Williams cannot have contact with juvenile females, the victims in his case, or their families. Now, that's the extent of the article. That's, I guess, reporting the news. I do not know what you think about this, but I'm going to tell you, I'll give you a little history on Judge Steve Gibbs. He used to be an NRA, Wisconsin Rifle Pistol Association, Friends of NRA attorney before he was a judge. And he fought shooting range cases, and quite successfully. The big boy. He commanded some presence with his presence. Steve, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but that's got nothing to do with my judicial system. Got nothing to do with justice for me. And I'm afraid to say, in my opinion, that's got nothing to do with justice for these 2 little children. At some point, I'm sorry that I helped push him into his judgeship. I think it was a misplaced trust, and I regret it. Those 2 girls deserve better. Those 2 children, they're not hardly girls. I mean, they're girls. They're female, but they're children, 8 and 5 years old. And we're letting Slenderman stabbers get out of mental health institutions, and this yutz is running around molesting 5 and 8-year-old girls. I'm sorry. If I'm a dad of one of those 2 young ladies, we're going to have some real serious conversations. Someplace where the sun don't shine. Yeah, well, whatever. I just, you can hear, I'm just beside myself with this crap. And this is what's going on all over the place. This is just little town nowhere USA. It just goes on and on. Here we go. Wisconsin Assembly violated the law with records on lawmaker who sexually harassed. Not COVID. Excuse me. I'm going to relax my throat muscles with some coffee. Hey, which reminds me, pick up your Just Jim Show stuff. Where'd it go? Hit the JJ merchandise QR code. Stop on by. Get a couple coffee cups. We got hats, sweatshirts, tees, lots of stuff. Got a new hunting line coming out shortly. Just have at it. Have a good time. Support the show. Madison, Wisconsin. Assembly leaders violated the state's public records law in 2019, which is going to be another segment on another show. I'll guarantee you. Freedom of Information Acts, Requests Act, and legislators and the pandemic. If you thought the wood ticks were getting away with it before, oh, you should see what they've gotten away with over the pandemic. And it's all within your power to stop it. It isn't hard. We'll show you how to do it. It's not hard at all. But anyway, in Madison, assembly leaders violated the state public records law in 2019 when they withheld records about state lawmaker who was stripped of his committee assignments for sexually harassing an aide. Excuse me. Dane County Judge Juan Colas sided with Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and journalists who sued the state assembly in March of 2020 over the records. Journal-Sentinel, Associated Press, Wisconsin State Journal, Capital Times, and Jonathan Anderson, a doctoral student studying access to government information, each requested documents related to sexual harassment complaint by former Democratic State Stausch Grzinski, I think it is. Well, you got a thing hanging over the top of that name. Whose interest in handling complaints confidentially outweighed the public interest in releasing them. Colas, in his ruling, said Fuller misapplied the balancing test and violated state public records law by denying access to even redacted records in the response to initial records requests. Spokesman for Assembly Speaker Robin Voss, who can't wait to grab a microphone or a camera lens and strut his shit. I'm only going to give you a quarter on that one. He didn't want to respond to that comment because he has no intention of ever following state open records laws. I'll guarantee you, when you talk about a two-party system, I'm going to tell you, you can stick it where the sun don't shine because neither one of the two parties in this state have any inkling to follow the law. It's a constant battle from our standpoint out here as journalists and citizens who put in FOIA requests and get absolutely stonewalled up with their request replies. We're going through it right now down in West Milwaukee, West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District. That's another story with the school boards. I'm going to tell you, we can't stay up and write this crap. You can't make it up. People just keep writing stuff that we could do a show about. But you don't know it because the news people don't ever report it. Coles also ruled the defendants misapplied a balancing test and violated the records law in redacting the names of non-witnesses and in redacting Grzinski's health statement. And I'm a very staunch HIPAA person, HIPAA law person. So if it's got something to do with health, other than if it's a public event or court case, and you enter your public health or your personal health information into that case, it becomes public information. 2 days after Grzinski lost his bid for re-election in August, a legislator released details of his sexual harassment after withholding the records for months. So they're trying to give this Yutz a shot at a re-election, so they don't release information. I'm telling you, there's no right, there's no left. There's just a group of people in the swamp, and it's in Madison, it's in every city in America. And their actions speak much louder than their words. Wisconsin lawmakers to pass a bill that would label legislators' discipline records confidential. Now, see what they're doing? They're going to cover their own butts by writing some new laws. It says we don't have anything is your personal information. We don't have to give it to you. Yet they're our elected officials. Where does this make any sense? The legislature has consistently withheld records related to. I got another thing. Sorry, I got another blob here. They're trying to protect details of the victims and to prevent creating a chilling effect on future victims who don't want to come forward and make statements. Fear of retaliation within the legislature is underscored by the fact that staff work for lawmakers on an at-will basis. Here you go. You can be fired anytime for any reason. They just let you go. So is that a deterrent to talking about the truth of what happens in your work environment? I think it is. I don't know that. Well, I suppose I could fire myself. Maybe I should. Lawmakers also have the power to hire and fire human resource staff in charge of investigating claims of sexual harassment and assault. Where in God's green earth does this make sense? This is the stuff that goes on in the day-to-day outside of the prim and proper press conference that somebody can't wait to make. Oh, and then you just get the sound bite that makes that person, oh, I'm doing my job. I'm working for you. No, you're not. You're working for yourself. Voss is one of the worst people, in my opinion. And I'm a conservative patriot. Sorry, I call a spade and a wood tick a wood tick. How could this not keep someone from reporting sexual harassment involving their bosses or make victims and human resource staff worry about losing their jobs? How in God's green earth is this acceptable? Do you find this to be an acceptable behavior? In your house, in your household or your extended family, you don't let that happen. Yet we go and vote for these people to go out someplace. Well, we'll just elect them and they'll go do something good for us. I don't think so. I don't get where that all comes from. I really don't.
Oh, for the love of God! Somebody get the jaws of life!
Hello, operator. Give me the number for 911.
What else can you say? This is crazy. What? And we the people just sit here and put up with it and listen to, oh yeah, that sounds good. That sounds great. Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, good soundbite. Sounds good. Yeah. And then the other day I was listening to, and the story goes on and on. The other day I was listening to these yutzes from Texas that keep an eye on Texas, people. Texas and Florida, for you Republicans and you conservatives, there's a whole pile of people down there that are waving their flag, open their yappers, and trying to muster support. You know, they're trying to make the next presidential ticket, I think, either as a presidential candidate or VP nominee. The DeSantis, I mean, it goes on and on. But anyway, in Texas, we had a whole pile of people get on a private jet and fly to Washington, D.C. And they were all supposed to be vaccinated. And this is not a show about COVID, good, bad, or indifferent. They get in a private jet, and somebody stands up with their little iPhone or whatever, takes a big picture down the aisle of the telephone or the plane, and they're all, oh, look at us, victory, we're fighting for you. No, you're not. You're taking a vacation. You're running. You're running from your job, you bunch of bozos. That plane is infected with wood ticks. Going to suck you dry because they don't know what else to do. And the show I was listening to had said, well, this is the first time this has ever happened. Not. This is, and I'm sorry to say, Wisconsin has to raise their hand and say, no, we were first. Wisconsin's 14. Many years ago. What was it that the 14 took off, went to Illinois because they didn't want to do their job and sit in an elected office that they wanted to be in, asked for your vote. Oh, elect me, I'll go to Diego, I'll take care of you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Oops. That one didn't work. That was a blank screen. It was supposed to be a... What did I do with it? Yeah, there's nothing there. No, look at that. Huh. I got new buttons here. I got buttons to push. Some of them work. Some of them work, some of them don't. We'll get it straightened out. It'll all be good. Anyway, the Wisconsin 14 were all Democrats that left the state of Wisconsin, fled to Illinois. We all knew where they were because they couldn't wait to get in front of a camera and, blah, 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 you know. And including coming back to Wisconsin. Because Jimmy Holprin, right up here in Eagle River, north of me a little bit, he was sitting at his wife's shop. This guy got pictures of his car in the back of the shop. People are coming and going and coming and going. They're feeding him money. I swear to God, if I say it, I got proof. Anything I tell you on this show, I have got proof. It absolutely, positively, either in an audio recording or a video recording. He's sitting there coming into town, then he gets off and drives his little red car down Illinois. Oh, yeah. Anyway, so Texas thinks they were first, but they were not. Wisconsin was first. And I'm going to tell you, to back the statement up that I made about people, there's no difference between Republicans or Democrats or right-wing, left-wing. They're all in it for themselves. And I'll tell you why. Because we sent a cease and desist order to the Sergeant at Arms. Do you know what a Sergeant at Arms job duty is? You know what his job function is? If you don't, why don't you go look it up? And matter of fact, if you're listening, why don't any of your legislators, why don't you go look up your job code? And yeah, we got job codes. We don't we? You go to work, you're supposed to do this, that, the next thing, and something else, and somebody else is get paid to do something else. It's called a job code, a job description. Tells you what it is you're supposed to be doing. And then, as a legislator, you've asked for that job. But then you're going to go run away because, oh, my feelers are hurt. Oh, no, I can't do something. What am I going to do? Oh, no. Here.
I'll be back. You can't keep the Democrats out of the White House forever. And when they get in, I'm back on the street. With all my criminal buddies.
Yes. Oh, God. Anyway, so they all, these people from Texas get in this private jet. Who paid for that? I don't know. We'll find out, I'm sure. And they fly to Washington, D.C. to be with their cronies, Pelosi and yeah, I'm sorry. I'll make my excuses, excuse me, right here, right now. I have trouble with names. I can't remember names to save my life a lot of times. Well, save my life. I don't know about saving my life, but I I can't remember names. Joe Hair Sniffing President. What can I say? That's how I remember him. That's the name that I come up with. Good, bad, or indifferent. Camel Toe Harris. I can't remember her first name for whatever reason. I'll give you a quarter for that one. And Pelosi. Yep. God, fine. We haven't heard from Feinstein in a while. Something's going on with her. Watch out. So these people fly to D.C. so they can be with their cronies. And thinking they're going to... What the hell is that? What are you? Pegging. What's going on? I'm getting feedback here. Yeah, it's not so short. Sorry. Something's shorting out on me here. Wow. Yeah. I'm getting a few people. I'm getting a few references. Getting something around Boy, this is crazy. Somebody's sitting around theology. What are we doing? I'm sorry for calling whatever it is, 29. And sorry, I'm seeing a lot of buttons here. And somebody's feeding me back here. This is crazy. So I think three of those Democrats, that tested positive for COVID, even if they were vaccinated. And sorry, my technical things are having problems. I am having problems there, people. Come on. What is going on here? Oh, sorry. One, two. Goodness. Somebody's. I see that. One, two. I see that. A silly connection. Hello. Are we back? I think I'm back. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, I think I am. We were having technical difficulties. I told you I got brand new equipment. Well, not brand new, but brand new equipment. And sorry, we were talking about the people from Texas being... yeah, there we go. Heading off, taken away, and the Wisconsin 14 were... There we go. Yeah, I know I'm back. The Wisconsin 14 were the first ones, and we sent a cease and desist order to the Sergeant at Arms at the Wisconsin state capitol, ordering him to retrieve the 14 Wisconsin legislators that were missing in action. And it is well within his job code to do that, regardless of interstate presence. That is his job to retrieve those people because it was ordered by the head of the Assembly and Senate to be in Wisconsin. They called the Assembly and State Senate to order. They refused. Never a penalty. The Texas people are doing the same thing, and they're now talking about maybe prosecuting them when they come back, if they come back, which is fine. Don't keep staying in D.C. They belong there. They're a bunch of swamp rats. And I find it funny that in the state of Texas, we now have, oh boy, what is it? We have monkeypox. We don't have COVID-19, 29, 34, hike. We now have monkeypox. And I find it be absolutely fascinating that Texas is the place that it shows up. And all I want to know is, when am I going to get my vaccine for monkeypox? Oh, Lordy. And I listened, yes, the pox, the vaccinations, all that stuff. Freedom of choice. If you want to get it, go get it. If you don't want to get it, don't get it. Welcome to America. That's why we are the land of the home of the brave and the free. Anyway, it's, how can I say? It's just thing after thing after thing. And I'm sorry that it seems like monkeys continue to be the crux of whatever it is that we're getting. I don't know if we have a bestiality problem in America or not, but that's a kitty comment there. Anyway, it's just you keep an eye on Texas and Florida. I'm telling you that these people are not necessarily how can I say it? When they go back, they go to jail. I'm sorry, fire them. If you ask for a job and you don't go to work, fire your ass. Another quarter. And with that, it's Texas lawmakers waiting for their 15 minutes of fame and fortune that Andy Warhol promised everybody to get. We were quite literally forced to leave the state of Texas. Oh, how untrue is that? Which is about as true to form as the banter between Dr. Fucciacci, whatever his name is, and Rand Paul. That's funny how I can remember some names and some names I can't. Anyway, they had quite a heated banter yesterday, and I listened to Rand Paul, and he might have crossed a line when he accused Fucciacci of killing the 4 million people, whatever it was, which was probably not appropriate. But if he would have, and I think he swung back into the correct line of questioning. Did the United States fund a portion of the research that went on in the Wuhan lab in China? Not the wet market, but the Hu Flung Pu lab in China. And yes, we did. And yes, it was a secondary roundabout funding that, hey, I'll give you the money, and even though I know you're going to give it to the next guy, which is going to be doing all of this stuff, and it's illegal, doesn't matter. I'll just close my eyes and let Biden Jr. sit on a board of directors for a power company. Come on. I haven't gotten that call yet. Anyway, I find it to be absolutely ludicrous that these people. Oh, and here's somebody sick. Tyler Morning. According to the Tyler Morning Telegraph, 67 Texas House Democrats flew on chartered planes, taking selfies on the bus, and they all had beer cans. Apparently, I didn't see the picture, but I've heard there was beer cans all over the place. taking selfies on the bus from Austin International Airport with a case of Miller Lite beer in the seat next to them. So if they were forced to leave, does that mean they were alcoholics, had to go get a drink? I don't get that. I don't know. With this whole thing where everybody is now talking about your voting rights, and my little town here, if I drive into town, I see somebody sitting on a swing outside their house, and they have this protect your voting rights sign in the front lawn. Excuse me. And I laugh every time I go by because there is absolutely no way that anything but voting rights procurement was pushed during the pandemic in this last election cycle. And given the fact that there's a whole lot of people saying, methinks thou does protest too much, me precious. Looking at states and their election process, or lack thereof, if there's nothing to hide, I forgot to hit one more button. Sorry. If there's nothing to hide, show us what's going on. Doesn't matter. Because the process is the primary focus, has to be. The results are second to whatever. And we, the people, need to know. If we ask a question, we need to know. It's no different than the assembly passing bills that are going to shelter elected officials. I can't even call them elected officials. They're not officials. Officials act with honor. They're, I don't know what they are. They're just elected people. For people to make up issues that are non-existent. Oh, there we go. I should have muted that a long time ago. Anyway, if you don't have anything to talk about, you make something up, and that's exactly what Democrats are doing across the country. Here's somebody, Representative Senfronia Thompson, Dean of the Texas House Democrat Caucus, said, I'm in Washington, D.C. because she didn't want to be a sitting duck in the legislature while her constituents' rights were stripped from them. Can you believe that? That's some... Wow. There's some people in Washington that think the same way, talk the same way, and absolutely don't know what the hell they're doing. I'm going to tell you why I'm up here. I'm not up here to take a vacation in Washington. I looked at the African American Museum. I thought about the struggle of my predecessors. I got only half the article here. And struggled to get the right to vote. And that right is sacred to my constituents that I have in Houston, Texas. And I'm up here because I don't plan to be a sitting person in the legislature, she said. Wow. I don't, on and on and on. They make this stuff up. And they think they're all that. And it's no different than congressional women floating around in tight, and I'll call it like I see it. One man, one vote, one opinion. When you have Congress people running around at gas stations, incite what I consider to be inciting riots, telling people we're going to get them at every turn, at every turn, you're going to have to be in their face. Got to do this, got to do that. I'm going to say you're not representing anything other than a special interest group. And that is not what our elected people are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be listening. And when's the last time you heard a legislator listen? Actually listen. We have all these town hall meetings that's supposed to be there to listen. No, they're there to spew their own agenda. And it's always within 10, 12 months of an election cycle. Yep, here I am, blah, 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 blah. And another thought, with the cease and desist order, it was never fulfilled. And to this day, I hold that person responsible and said, you have taken my tax dollars in your salary. I'm jumping here, sorry. And instead of doing your job that the Sergeant of Arms is supposed to do, you did nothing, and therefore kept our legislature from doing what it is they were elected to do. And you had the power to go do what you had to do, negotiate with whomever in whatever state, bring their asses back. That is exactly what should have been done. And as long as we pussyfoot around with elected people, they'll just continue to happen. Now it's happening in Wisconsin, happening in Texas. I can't wait it'll happen. Yeah. Can you imagine this happening in Montana? I think not. Yeah. I'm thinking just not going to happen. Long story short, not going to happen. I may end my show early today. I'm about 20 minutes out. But I got to remind you again, I want you to like and subscribe to our show over on YouTube, on the Dose of Reality Network. We're here for you. And if you have something that you'd like me to talk about or take a look at, investigate, send it in. news@thejustjimshow.com. I will get a slate out, put that on the bottom of one of my camera shots here shortly. And with that, I think I'm going to say good night, goodbye. God bless. I'm going to go back over here. God bless. Be good to each other. And I hope you have a better tomorrow.